YouTubers, and welcome back to another episode of The Grandstand here on the Ohio Patriot Education Network YouTube channel. I'm, as always, your host, AR the Ohio Patriot. And for today's episode, we're going to basically talk about a few different bills out of the Ohio State House that the Democrats are now losing their fucking minds over. And the leftists love to lose their minds over things like this. But yeah, the Ohio House passed the couple bills to save the next generation. I believe the one was called the SAFE Act, which was saving kids from child experimentation. Or sorry, saving adolescents from experimentation. And then you had, which by the way, that particular one is to stop transition surgeries and stop kids from being on hormone blockers and stuff like that. And obviously, it's to stop sterilization, what it actually is. Which is what the shit is at the end of the day. You know, any of these fucking people, any of these sick-ass leftist scumbags that want to sit here and talk about gender-affirming care, they're a bunch of goddamn liars, dude. It is not gender-affirming care. They are literally sterilizing children, and they need to be fucking locked up for that shit, honestly, in a story. And that's number one of the thing. Then we also had banning dudes and women's sports again here now. That was another one that passed this go-around in this package. And then there was a third one that was a parental rights bill that would basically allow parents to have a parental bill of rights in the state of Ohio. And if their kid doesn't want to be listening to all kinds of sexual talk and stuff like that in classes, they don't have to be part of that class, which is how it should be anyway. And my biggest problem is, and I was watching this thing this morning. It was one of the Caitlin Bennett's little things down there in Florida, and she was talking to some of the people at the Pride event down there or whatever about Ron DeSantis and stuff like that, which, I'm no fan of DeSantis. I've never thought that guy was good. I always thought he was kind of a little bit of a rhino, whatever the case be. But what he's done down there in Florida when it comes to, the various bills down there, he's done a good job about this stuff, dude. And it's not fascism at all. It's literally stuff like, that's what I think is so ridiculous about these people. They don't even know what the fucking word fascist even means most of the time, dude. Which more or less it's being a dictator kind of thing is what it is. And you're not being a dictator when, number one, the books that you're banning from school libraries are literally teaching kids how to give each other blowjobs and shit like that. And then secondly, when you're passing legislation that stops kids from literally having their fucking dicks chopped off or having their fucking tits chopped off, et cetera, and being mutilated by big pharmaceutical companies for profit, no, you're not a fascist at all. What you're doing is you're stopping the fucking greed in these companies. That's exactly what it is at the end of the day. It's all about greed, dude. It's exactly why Anita Samani, who is currently in the Ohio State House, needs to be tossed the fuck out of it, because she's one of these bitches that does these fucking transit surgeries on these kids. And it's like, first of all, how the fuck do you still have a medical license in the state of Ohio, or any state for that matter? Number one, when you're doing that kind of stuff. And number two, how are you not in prison awaiting the death penalty right now for literal crimes against humanity, Nuremberg style? Because you're literally experimenting on children. You were doing all kinds of shit that the fucking Nazis were doing in Nazi Germany to Jews. Seriously. It's fucking disgusting, dude. It is exactly 80-something years later, the same exact shit right now. And I've actually heard people compare what we're seeing now with these kids being mutilated and stuff like that to, there was a drug back in the day that they gave pregnant women. It was like thermeteride or something like that. I forget how to pronounce the word. But basically what it was is it was supposed to be like a morning sickness drug back in like the 60s or something. Like, I think it was late 50s, early 60s and stuff like that. And they knew for a fact, by the way, within like less than a year of it being on the market, that it was already causing kids to have birth defects and stuff like that. Yet again, going back to corporate greed thing, you had these sick fuckers continue to push the shit. They continued to allow it to remain on the market for more than a decade. And it wasn't until like the last like 4 or 5 years now that you actually had the families of these people that were a lot of these kids that had all these, deformations, whether it be cleft palates, whether it be the top of their roofs never actually formed because, the drugs basically deformed them, is what it was in the womb, or multiple limbs missing, whether it be an arm here, a leg there, both legs missing, both arms missing too on top of that. So you got no hands and no feet and stuff like that. Yeah, it was horrible shit, dude. And it's definitely, when you look at that and you compare it to what they want to call gender affirming care now, It's the same fucking shit, dude. It's literally medical experimentation is what it is. It's trying to turn a child, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, whatever it is, into a lifelong patient of the medical industry. That's all it is. It's pure corporate greed. And what pisses me off is then you have these fucking scumbag ass piece of shit reporters at a local level like Morgan Trow, who's a stupid fucking cunt. We talked about her before on this channel, actually, when it came to her bitching and moaning about anti-gun stuff or whatever and trying to suck Casey Weinstein's dick at the same time, if I'm not mistaken. Because she's the one that wrote this article we're talking about, and it's the one that's linked in the description about Ohio House passes bill to ban trans youth from gender-affirming care in athletics. Again, it's not affirming care. It's literally banning kids from being experimented on. That's how it should be written, honestly, and that's how it should be phrased every single time. That's what I'm so sick and tired of, is these leftist phrasings and stuff like that. That's why I fucking hate the term cisgender, because especially after I found out recently what it was actually from. Apparently, it was some fucking pedophile who was trying to shit on straight people, is what it is. And that is exactly why I say, fuck your bullshit terminology. We're not using it anymore. Eat shit and fuck off, motherfuckers. So, anyway. And of course, that's what Morgan Trow's dumbass used in this thing, was the whole cisgender thing. So when we get to that, we'll change it to what we want to phrase it as. But anyway, so going on to read this, it said, Ohio House passes bill to ban trans youth from, quote, gender-affirming care in athletics. So Columbus, Ohio, the Ohio House passed a bill that would take away, I love how they say that, would take away trans youth's right to health care in athletics. First of all, they're fucking, as you pointed out, they are youth. They have no right legally as a minor to be able to consent to shit like this. Number one. And number two, they're not taking away their right to athletics. What they are doing is saying, hey, if you were born a biological male, go compete against the fucking guys. If you were born a biological female, you can be in the women's sports. It's as simple as that, really. It's literally play the fucking game with whatever actual sex you were born as. And that's the problem with these people, dude. And really, that's what it's been forever, is what it is. That's why you had the whole Supreme Court case there with Selena Soul and those other chicks from, I think it was Connecticut or Delaware, or what was that there? One of those, original colony states and stuff like that, where they were fighting against these motherfuckers because you had two black males. You had the one year, it was like sophomore year or whatever, doing this shit. And then you had his buddy join junior year because they knew they couldn't hack it against other dudes in the track and field events. So they went over there to the fucking chicks and smoked their asses in every single race, is what it was. And the whole entire point was so they could get scholarships and money and take it away from the actual biological females who were the ones who deserved that stuff because it was their fucking sports. And that's the entire point of the matter. And what's even more disgusting is you had fucking bullshit ass federal government being like, no, we totally okay with this. We're not going to ban this shit or whatever. And that's exactly where you're having states come in and do 10th Amendment stuff with states' rights, is what it is now. So, anyway. Going back to the article at hand here then. Yeah, it's in a 64 to 28 vote. So there's some people missing that day, obviously, because you have 67 Republicans in the state house and you have 32 Democrats, I believe is what it is right now. So that would mean and I guarantee that was a party line vote too, by the way. So it means you'd have 3 Republicans missing that day, and you would have had 4 Democrats missing from that vote then. So they either didn't vote or they just weren't in chambers that day or something. Maybe they were sick or something. Hell, maybe they were trying to flee the state with their so-called trans kids. You never fucking know anymore, dude. I'm going to rephrase this too, by the way. I'm going to call it what it is. Genital mutilation care. House Bill 68 would prohibit, quote, gender-affirming care for trans teens and trans and non-binary youth, including hormone blockers. Oh, you mean the same hormone blockers that they literally put pedophiles on in prison to chemically castrate their asses? You mean those hormone blockers, lady? Hormone replacement therapy, or HRT, same shit, by the way. Blair White and Buck Angel talked about this a while ago on Blair's sit-down podcast with people. So yeah, you're talking about literally stopping kids from being sterilized for life on hormone drugs. And then it said medical or surgical procedures and some mental health services. I guarantee that that's not the case at all, dude. What? And again, what they're calling mental health services in this case is literally having some piece of shit fucking therapist being like, "Oh yeah, you're totally a girl now, Timmy." It's like, no, you're not, Timmy. You're totally a boy who these fucking sick fucks want to sit there and fuck with their heads and keep gender confusing your ass and then turn you into their fucking daughter, or God forbid, it's like one of those Jeff Younger fucking situations where it's his fucking cunt of a wife, who, by the way, was a child doctor. She was an actual pediatrician and wanted a daughter, but instead of actually adopting a daughter, because she had the money to do so with her, rich ass is what it was, she decided to turn her son James into a fucking girl named Luna. And now they're in California, and that poor little boy is probably being medically experimented on right now in the state of California. Probably going to be getting some Jazz Jennings style surgeries here pretty soon, I'm guessing, honestly, dude. Even though he knows for a fact he's a boy, when he was with his father, he would always choose boy clothes and stuff like that. But yet you have some piece of shit fucking female judge siding with his bitch ass mom, and you have this piece of shit jury who I guarantee was mostly females, choosing, oh no, Jeff is in the wrong here. The kid should totally go to the mother now. It's like, fuck that, dude. The second that, and this is the real problem with our justice system entirely, dude. It's supposed to be a jury of your peers. In that case, it should have been 12 men on that fucking jury for Jeff Younger's case. And the entire point of the matter is, the real issue is the whole jury your peers thing is absolute bullshit in this country in this day and age, dude, because almost none of them are actual juries of your peers. If that were the case, they would find 12 people that have the same hobbies as you, have the same interests as you, et cetera, et cetera. They never do, though. What they find is the dumbest fucking people that can't get out of jury duty, which are usually some of the laziest motherfuckers on earth, actually. And those are the people actually deciding your fate in most cases. And that's why, honestly, if I ever did come up on any kind of trial where I was tried with, like, some kind of crime or whatever, like a major crime that I was going to go to jail for like a long time for, I would never choose a jury trial, and I would never take a plea deal. I would actually force that shit into probably multiple trials and multiple mistrials, actually, until I got like the decent fucking thing or whatever. Now, granted, I think Kyle Rittenhouse is an exception on that one because his had so much overwhelming evidence and stuff like that. Like, I'm talking about kind of like that level of shit or whatever, like using your firearms self-defense kind of thing or whatever. Because I know for a fact, they had to bring that jury in from like I think it was out of state almost, if I'm not mistaken, or like way, way different part of the state or whatever to get them there. And the only reason that they voted to acquit his ass was because there was such overwhelming evidence, is what it was. And it would have been a travesty otherwise. But then, of course, you got these New York juries and stuff like that, like the Daniel Penny case there recently, where it was them all voting to convict him, or hell, Daniel Perry's case in Texas, where he defended himself against that BLM fucker, and he got tried for that too as well, because you have this scumbag ass jury made up of BLM and Antifa terrorists, is what it was. So yeah, depending on the area and stuff like that, I would never take a jury trial. Like, I would always force something else. There is what it would be. So anyway, going back to the rest of this article though, says, quote, healthcare professionals, no, you mean big pharma greed motherfuckers is what they really mean, who provide this care could lose their licenses and be sued. They fucking should be, dude. There's a reason, by the way, why a detransitioner at this point, a biological female who was put on hormone blockers at the age of 13 and had her tits cut off. There's a reason why she's now suing the fuck out of Kaiser Permanente. Because they literally sterilized this chick and took away her motherhood in the future. They stole her fucking entire life from her. And they did the same exact thing to other people. And what's even more disgusting is you have AMC Theaters now pulling a documentary about detransitioning. Why? Because you have the fucking alphabet mafia of these little fucking, wannabe trans people, like your Jazz Jennings types and stuff like that, bitching and moaning loudest the fucking assholes getting the squeaky wheel, getting the grease again. Where they're bitching and moaning about, like, oh, you can't show this because it fucking hurts the trans. Like, shut the fuck up, cunt. Seriously. But yeah, you have AMC bitching and moaning and kowtowing to the fucking left again, dude. And it's fucking disgusting entirely. And that's why, honestly, I would say if these people were smart that were behind that documentary, they would blast that fucking shit everywhere that they could at this point, and maybe do even a free site for that matter, just to get the information out there and stuff, dude. You know, there's a reason why you have another movie coming out here pretty soon. That's The Sound of Freedom, I believe is what it's called. It's starring Jim Caviezel, the guy that played In Frequency and a few other movies and stuff like that. He always played Jesus Christ in The Passion of the Christ. He's actually doing that movie, The Sound of Freedom, which is about the dude who, I forget what the actual company's called, but basically this guy, he created this organization to save kids across the world from human trafficking. And what they're doing is they're making, it's like a small ass indie company that made this film, and they're trying to get it out there to as many people as possible. And you can actually go on their, I forget what their website's called, but you basically can go on their website, and if you want to, you can actually buy the people's tickets for them. And I believe it's like half of the money or something like that goes to the actual organization to fight against human trafficking and go out there and actually pay the guys that are basically mercenaries is what it is, to go to these countries and find these kids. And in a lot of cases, what's even more fucked up is they actually have to buy these kids out of human trafficking. Like, they'll literally go in there and do, like, you know, a 3-month operation, a 4-month operation, whatever it is, and they'll buy like 30 fucking kids or whatever. They'll just give these people like cold hard cash because they can't do it otherwise. Is what it is. They can't just go in there and snipe them. Is what it would be then. Because unfortunately, you know, depending on the country, a lot of the laws are so backward ass, they would never prosecute these people that are doing, you know, trafficking of children is what it is. So, and to me, honestly, when you look at what's going on right now with what I'm talking about in this whole situation right now, with this so-called gender affirming care shit, it's the exact same stuff, dude. It's the exact same thing. And the most fucked up part of it all is when you start doing deep dives into this shit, and when you start actually researching everything across the board, here's what it is. You realize very quickly who's actually behind the agenda to push this stuff, and it's fucking pedophiles. It's literal fucking child molesters in this country who are behind a lot of this stuff to try to gender transition these kids is what it is, because they want future victims. That's exactly what they want. They want future victims to fucking molest and to fuck with. And if nothing else, they're the enablers of these fucking people that are doing that shit, that they're trying to give these people fucking, you know, more bait and stuff like that. They're basically the handlers to hand it off to the fucking people that are the sickos is what it is then. But anyway, I gotta grab a quick drink real quick here. And then we'll start up again here. All right, we're right now. Yeah, it says medical professionals may have their licenses stripped and be sued. So Medicare would not cover gender affirming procedures for minors. It shouldn't. How the fuck is it doing that to begin with, dude? It shouldn't be doing that anyway to begin with. That says HB 68 was introduced by State Rep Gary Click. Lawmakers in favor of the bill argue that trans teens don't know what they really want, because they don't, and their parents and doctors are pressured to approve of the medical care. Well, first of all, it's not really the doctors that are pressured. It's the doctors pressuring the parents in many cases, literally telling them, do you want a live daughter or a dead son? Like, that's what they literally told that, seriously. Like, that's what they're literally telling these people in many cases. And in the case of I'm trying to think, Chloe Cole, that was the chick who had a bunch of surgeries done between like the ages of like 13 and 16, and now she's detransitioned is what it was. She actually came out recently and she was talking about her story, and she specifically said they said that almost exact phrase to her, or to her and her parents, when they were in the doctor's office. They were like, "Oh, do you want a living son or a dead daughter?" Like, what the, who the fuck are you to say that, you fucking sick piece of shit so-called medical professional? You don't know a goddamn thing, person. And honestly, that's why I fucking hate doctors in this country so much in many cases, because it's these same sick fuckers that are pulling this shit every single time right now. And it's like, bro, you cannot sit here and honestly tell me that kid cannot be saved, that they would actually go and, you know, commit the worst atrocity possible, which is taking their own life. Just because, oh, you're not going to give them the care that they need, because you're not going to medically experiment on them. That is some next level fuckery is what that is. It's disgusting. Anyway, we're right now. It said parents are being manipulated by the physicians. Click said, yes, they are. Yes, they are, Gary. And this is what I love about Morgan Trowell's bullshit here. So basically, to shit talk on Gary Click, she goes on this whole tirade. Said Click, who is not a doctor and attended an unaccredited university where he majored in religious studies, said he has done hours of research. Who the fuck cares if he's a doctor or not, you dumb bitch? First of all, number one, if you do 10,000 hours of research on a subject, you are now an expert in that fucking field. That is a given fact in this country. And number two on that one, you don't have to be a fucking medical professional to know that you don't need to fucking sterilize children, you sick fucks. Like you, Morgan Trow. You don't need to be a fucking, actual journalist to somehow work for big pharmaceutical companies under the gaze that you're working for mainstream media. Because that's what it really is at the end of the day. When you look at who's actually paying the fucking bills for these scumbag ass fucking mainstream media sites, dude, whether it be ABC, NBC, CBS, etc., it's big pharmaceutical companies running these fucking industries. It's like I talked about before. This is back in 2020. I heard the story for the first time. It was this couple who were talking about their daughter who basically got the HPV vaccine, and then she had like some weird adverse reaction to it, is what it was. And they were doing a whole the local, I think it was NBC affiliate or something like that. You had like one of the reporters or whatever talking to them about it, and she was like, "Yeah, we want to run a whole special on your kid," is what it was. And so they sit down with people and did like an hour or two special on them, is what it was then. And they said they were going to run it, obviously, because it was like, the adverse side effects of different things like that is what it was. And which, by the way, I think is now a known thing, if I'm not mistaken. And so they were like, okay, we're going to run this in a few months or whatever is what the reporter person told them was what it was then. And so, a few months go by and the people are like, okay, why isn't this running yet or whatever the case be? So they call them up and they're like, hey, why haven't you guys run the special that you shot with us like, a year ago, whatever it was? And this reporter, I shit you not, told them over the phone, she was like, yeah, we're not going to run that because if we do, we're going to lose all of our big pharmaceutical ad buyers. What the fuck? Like, seriously? And that's the problem, dude. Again, it goes back to fucking people kowtowing to giant corporations that shouldn't fucking exist at this point. That are literally destroying kids' lives in many cases. So, anyway. Continuing on back with this, though. It said, she was talking about Click doing research, said that research through has been called into question by so-called experts, and it consists of testimonies from detransitioners. Okay, so what they're saying is Gary Click has talked to people like Chloe Cole and other detransitioners, and yet somehow that's not research anymore into the subject. Yes, it fucking is, you lying sacks of shit in the mainstream media, especially you, Morgan Trout, who wrote this fucking piece of shit hit piece. Said disgruntled parents, some of whom have lost custody. So basically, you're talking about Jeff Younger types is what it is. Yeah, disgruntled parents who would literally have their kids snatched from them by sick ass fucking pieces of shit. Others, like the biological mother who want to transition the fucking kids, is what it is. Yeah, so some of whom have lost custody or in no contact with their trans children. So yeah, she's meaning like Jeff Younger types. YouTube videos and articles from the 80s that have been debunked or more recent pieces that have been widely circulated for being, quote, transphobic. Again, this is just a way to attack the guy behind the fucking legislation. That's all it is, dude. That's all they're doing with that whole thing right there. It's just a way to attack State Rep Gary Click and try to basically be like, well, he's not an expert in the field. But yet the person you would call an expert, being Anita Samani, is a literal motherfucking doctor who puts kids on the transition drugs, who does literal transition surgeries of fucking minors. That's your expert? Fuck you, leftists. Seriously. Fucking pieces of crap ass scumbags, dude. Anyway, continuing on here, it said, quote, it would have a severe health impact on a ton of trans children and non-binary children in the state who are already receiving life-saving medicine. who would then be forcefully removed from the existing medications that have worked for them, said Marina Bruno of Equality, Ohio. I believe I actually called this dumb cunt out on Twitter one time, and she tried to fire back at me. And it ended up being a whole thing where we had like a little Twitter war for like a day or two, and I ended up blocking her ass because of that shit. But yeah, we would 100%, by the way. I'm gonna make this statement right now, actually. If I ever become governor of the state, I'm gonna have an entire list of people I'm gonna have arrested on my first 24 hours in office. And that Marina Bruno woman is one of them, because she'll be arrested on about 180,000 different fucking crimes against humanity charges for the shit that she's pulling there in that fucking bullshit ass organization, Equality Ohio, where she's literally helping little kids become gender experimentation for fucking big pharmaceutical companies. Because it's literally crimes against humanity shit at this point, dude. It's literally Nuremberg trials again, and it will be happening pretty damn soon, is what it'll be. So, anyway. Same piece of shit Bruno said, quote, passing this bill would take away the parental rights of these parents to decide the best care of action for their children. Oh, you mean the parents who literally have Munchausen syndrome by proxy? You mean those parents? You mean the same fucking pieces of shit that I've actually had interactions with in the past 12 hours? Or sorry, past 24 hours? Where I've had to call these motherfuckers out because of the stupid fucking bullshit that they're pushing now? And we're going to talk about a couple of them right now, actually, because I'm going to grab up the screenshot of tweets that I pulled out here before I finally block these dumbasses. So you had this first one, this Jen Moore woman, saying, I watched this display today. These politicians and Christians have no business in the exam rooms of doctors who are helping families with these private issues. The far right are the first to scream government overreach. What do they call this? And my response to her was, and people like you who are for sterilizing children belong in Ohio prison cells for child abuse. It's not care when you're taking a gender-confused single-digit age child and forcing them to take the same drugs that chemically castrate pedophiles in prison. And then the other one was, let's see if I can find it here now. Yeah, then you had this Kathy woman. I think that's how you pronounce her name there. It's spelled real weird. Had her claim, Ohioans, the Republican supermajority in the Ohio State House is stealing your freedom to raise your children. They're giving the power to Aaron Barr, the president of Center for Christian Virtue. This is not a virtuous organization. And then I said, no, we're taking away your power to abuse children, you demon. Which is how you treat people at this point, dude, because that's what they are. Like I've said for some time on this channel, we are literally in a war of good and evil. We are in a war of good versus pure fucking evil. Angels versus fucking demons. Legitimately. And that's exactly what these leftists are, dude. They're fucking demons. So, anywho. Right now. Let's see. Yeah, so bill does more than just ban healthcare, so-called healthcare. It also prevents trans kids from participating in athletics. And then it said, along with requiring schools, that by the way, this is the thing that Jenna Powell's been trying to do for the past 3 years now or so, which was the Save Women's Sports Act or whatever it was. Yeah, it said, along with requiring schools, state institutions of higher education, and private colleges to designate separate single-sex teams in sports for each. HB 68 provides opportunity for legal action. Said anyone who feels they didn't get the athletic opportunity or suffers a direct or indirect harm can sue the school and district, interscholastic conference, an organization that regulates the conference. If someone feels they have been retaliated against for reporting a potential, quote, trans student, they are also able to sue. The individual must bring the suit within 2 years after the violation occurs. So I like that actually quite a bit, because this is exactly what people like Riley Gaines need to have there at UPenn against that piece of shit Will Thomas. And I will never call that motherfucker Leah, by the way, because his name is fucking Will. He was a fucking mediocre dude who could not hack it in men's swimming. So what did he do? Claimed he transitioned into a trans woman, yet still had a big old fucking dick in his fucking pants. Walked into the girls' locker room, swinging the motherfucking, schlong everywhere is what it was. and then wants to sit there and claim to be a fucking trans woman now, and then smoked all these girls in the fucking swimming pools. Honestly, the best thing that they could have done, and I'm gonna say this right now, the best thing they could have done was every single one of them to get on the starting blocks, wait for the fucking buzzer or the gun to go off, whatever it was they were going to use for the start of the actual match and stuff. As soon as that dude jumps off, everybody else hops down and just stands there, fucking arms folded. Fuck you, buddy. You can go swim with yourself. And that is exactly how that shit ends in like one or two meets, is what it is, dude. But instead, they kowtow to the fucking leftist mafia at this point. They sat there, and as Riley said in recent congressional hearings with the U.S. Senate, I believe is what it was, you had a bunch of intimidation and blackmail supposedly going on, where they were telling these girls, "Oh, if you don't fucking, affirm this motherfucker, if you don't actually call them the trans woman that they are now, we're gonna take away your scholarships. We're gonna do everything else." That's not blackmail, by the way. That's fucking extortion, dude. That is literally extorting people. That is exactly what the fucking mafia did in this country back in the 50s and 60s, and even back in, honestly, going back to bootlegging times in the 1920s and 30s and stuff like that, with Al Capone and stuff like that, dude. That's exactly what the left is at this point, dude. They are the modern day fucking racketeers of this country. They are the modern day extorters. They are the modern day mafia. Whether it be the alphabet mafia or something else for that matter, it does not matter. They're a fucking mafia. They're mafiosos. Anywho. It said the bill mainly focuses on trans girls, but also applies to male teams. Claims 6 girls, which really means 6 men competing as girls, across Ohio may no longer be able to play in the girls' sports. Republicans in the state have it their way. Only 3 of these dudes were approved to play in girls' sports in the spring session. It says there are approximately 400,000 athletes participating in the 7th to 12th grade programs. According to Ohio School Athletic Association, they represent 0.000000015% of the population. For the spring season, these 3 dudes competing as women are representing 0.000000075%. Says Parker is a college athlete, and he would get kicked off his team if he participated in Ohio. So I'm assuming that's a guy competing as a girl or a girl competing as a guy. I'm not really sure which. And they claim, oh no, I'm sorry. This is the one that's doing the female softball is what it is. Says my team accepts me, my college does, but apparently the state doesn't. Go fuck off, kid. Seriously. Anyway, this is from Matt Sharp with the conservative group Alliance Defending Freedom. So-called trans athletes would take awards from actual biological female athletes. Says it only takes one male to capture a championship, one male to take a record that belonged to them. Yes, it does. And as we said before in this whole thing, when it comes to Selena Sol and them people, dude, you had them literally writing articles after all this shit was happening where it was third is the new first, bronze is the new gold. Because that's what they're competing for. They were competing for fucking bronze against 2 biological males whose parents were all too happy to be like, yeah, my son's getting it done in the fucking girls' track team. It's disgusting, dude. Sickening. And yet the Title IX shit didn't fucking throw their asses out, what it was, dude. It says currently, if a biological male in middle school or high school wants to play with biological females, they must have either a minimum of 1 year of going through hormone treatment, or they must determine no physical or psychological advantages, which is impossible, by the way. It's impossible to do that kind of shit. And first of all, you're going to have fucking physical differences. You're a biological male, dude. You're going to have larger bone density. You're going to be physically stronger no matter what. It's just biology, dude. Like this, the second you go through a male puberty, you are automatically getting stronger. You're automatically getting sharper. You're getting faster. You know? Your muscles are changing. Girl goes through female puberty. She's getting different stuff. She's becoming more feminine. She's getting a little bit weaker and stuff like that. And that's the entire point. That's how it should be. You know, biology is a thing. It's meant to be a thing. You know, there's a reason why you had hunters and you had gatherers. You had hunters back in our, early days of humanity that were men. You had gatherers that were a bunch of females. And most of the time, actually, the hunters didn't bring back shit. You had the gatherers actually feed everybody. Because they would go and gather, like, fruits and nuts and stuff like that. And meanwhile, you had these guys out on the hunt for, 4, 5, 6 hours, whatever it was, come back with nothing. And the chicks are like, oh, that's okay. Here's a bowl of fruit and stuff like that. Or here's a bowl of nuts or something. And they would be able to survive on that for a day or two. And then they would go out and they would gather some other stuff. And actually, if you look back in early hunting in a lot of cases, it wasn't actually people, taking down like big old animals. It was them going out there and finding various scavenged kills of big old cats is what it was. Saber-tooth tigers and whatever the modern day equivalent would be, like, jaguar or something like that. It would be them finding like those kind of kills and then just dragging the shit back to the fucking, rock den and doing it up there is what it was. So anyway. Let's see. Yeah, so what is the next thing here? So bill goes to the state senate. Senate President Matt Hoffman is in favor of the sports ban aspect, but didn't touch on the healthcare portion. Says a federal judge, which by the way is an Obama appointee, literal pedophile, in Arkansas just ruled the state's ban on gender affirming care was discriminatory and blocked it. When asked how that may impact his decision making process, Hoffman said it wouldn't. It's been a problem in the United States that a single appointed federal judge, aka Obama appointees, not accountable to the voters, passes a law regarding state law, which, when probably they don't have real jurisdiction to do that. No, they don't, is what it is. Hoffman continued on and said, I don't think that one judge on a federal bench in Arkansas thinks is going to affect what the Ohio General Assembly does. So this is funny, claims Senate Majority Leader Nikki Antonio, who is the biggest piece of shit in our state house right now, actually, or in our General Assembly, I should say. And she's one of the ones that should be in jail right now for multiple attacks on gun rights in the state. Her stupid cunt ass, who is the only out and about lesbian in the Ohio General Assembly currently, claimed, I find it very interesting considering that right now we have gerrymandered districts that were decided by a federal judge. Irony always rears its ugly head in the state of Ohio. Says the fucking cunt who literally should be in Ohio prison right now for multiple felonies for trying to literally deprive Ohio of our constitutional right to keep and bear arms in the state. Not to mention the fact that you've been on a whole bunch of pro-abortion bills, Nikki Antonio, as well as a bunch of these gender-affirming care bills and stuff like that to literally allow kids to be medically experimented on, you sick fucking cunt. I'll tell you what, how this woman was ever allowed to become Senate Minority Leader is fucking ridiculous, dude. It's fucking slap in the face entirely, man. And honestly, if the Republican Party had any goddamn balls in the state, they would have removed every single one of these Democrats at the beginning of the General Assembly this year. The second that they all took office on January 4th, within less than 12 hours, every single Democrat should have been voted out of the state house and the state senate for that matter. And it should have been in the story thing at that point then. So anyway, that's where we're at for the day, though. Pretty fucking disgusted by all these people. I'm just really fucking sick and tired of the left at this point entirely. And I'm just over it, dude. I'm over it fucking hell with these people. I've had it with the fuckery of the left. And this is exactly why we have our list right now of the people in the state house right now. And when you have Democrats coming out and being like, oh, this is going to hurt kids in the state of Ohio so much. Now what it's going to do is it's going to hurt your fucking bribes that you're taking from these big pharmaceutical companies or your Planned Parenthoods, etc. that are the ones pushing these transition drugs on these kids, you sick fucks. But good luck continuing your fucking pay-to-play scandals, though, bitches. Because that's the whole point. We will out your fucking asses. Allison Russo, Casey Weinstein, Anita Samani, etc., etc. And we will bring petitions against you very soon under Article 1, Section 2 of the Ohio Constitution to remove your fucking asses from the General Assembly once and for all. Because if the Republican Party is going to be a bunch of fucking spineless cowards and not do it for us, we'll do it ourselves. And it's as simple as that. TikTok, bitches, your time is coming. Your time is almost done. Hope you enjoy your final days in the General Assembly because it ain't going to be much longer before we have the votes to vote your asses out is what it is. And it's as simple as that. Hope you all enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you all on the next one. We'll be back tomorrow for Freedom Friday. Later.